I had wanted to make this video when the news first broke, but at the same time, there was a lot of fights going on, a lot of high-profile fights that I felt like this overall story and my video and everything would just kind of get lost in the shovel. And so that's why I waited till now to basically say rest in peace to Alejandro Gonzalez Jr., aka Cobrita, son of a former world champion, featherweight world champion. And of course, most of you guys know him for the fact that he was able to drop Carl Frampton twice in the first round of what was Carl Frampton's United States debut. Came in as a heavy underdog, a guy that was pretty much brought in to lose ostensibly, a guy meant to make Carl Frampton sellable in the United States, meant to look good. And he went in there, he managed to drop him and gave him a fairly tough fight even after that. He gave him a lot of difficulty just throughout most of the fight. Of course, Frampton definitely deserved the victory over him, but Gonzalez showed a lot of heart, a lot of skill, a lot of will in there for a guy who was just 22, I think, or 21 at the time that he fought Frampton. You know, young guy, still trying to make his way in the sport, trying to accomplish similar to things to what his dad had managed to back in the 90s. So, of course, from there he wound up fighting on the PBC again against Karim Guerfi of France. Lost a pretty close, tough decision. He had dropped Guerfi in the first round as well. That was a pretty close, competitive fight though. You know, definitely one of the better fights overall from Premier Boxing Champions. And recently, just a couple of months ago, he came off a bit of a long layoff to get what was kind of a controversial draw down in his home city or his home area for the most part in Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. Of course, that is exactly where he wound up being found dead, found murdered, ostensibly, along with his grandfather and I believe one or two other people as well. Just a very unfortunate circumstance and situation to have happen to him. You know, he's a young guy looking to kind of, make a better life for himself. And unfortunately, sometimes you get caught up in the wrong situation, wrong place, wrong time, or sometimes get caught up with the wrong people. A lot of times, especially, pro fighters that come from backgrounds where some of the people that could, technically get you into a whole hell of a lot of trouble, even just by virtue of guilt by association, just by knowing the wrong people, being friends with or friendly with some people that might have people looking to avenge certain things or get certain amounts of get back, what have you. Really unfortunate. He's a guy that largely trained in Southern California and Los Angeles. Trained with some pretty solid champions in their own right. Giovanni Segura, Daniel Ponce de Leon, amongst others. And I think he was looking to try and mold himself similar to the way that they managed to do, similar to the way that his dad managed to do as well. I definitely send my condolences to his dad and the rest of his family and everything. Really, just a sad incident to happen. He had kids as well. Just a young dude trying to make his way in the world, and unfortunately, this kind of comes off of a year where it seems like a lot of fighters got into some pretty troublesome situations. You see Charles Martin getting shot, Jose Benavidez getting shot, Martin in L.A., Benavidez back in Phoenix, and just sometimes bad things just happen. Sometimes you gotta definitely be aware of your surroundings, be aware of your friends, and maybe your enemies too as well. Depending on who's out there that might not really have your best interests in mind, whether it's somebody purporting to be a friend or somebody that has been made known to you as someone to watch out for, just by virtue of jealousy or street cred or whatever it might happen to be. Of course, there's recent incidents with Adrian Broner that kind of come to mind, as well as Gervonta Davis. That like a big part of the reason back when the whole Davis and Floyd Mayweather issue was going on, with Davis not wanting to leave his hometown and Baltimore and go to Vegas. And to me, I was definitely one of the people that said that he should look to do that. He should look to rise above his hometown. It's not like he necessarily has to just forget where he came from, so to speak. Forget all the people back home and everything. But at the same time, sometimes you got to let people go off and tread their own path, blaze their own trail, and then they can come back and maybe enrich the same community that they came from, and help others, help other young fighters, other young people, just generally speaking, to chase their dreams as well, and do so in just the best manner possible, the manner where their overall abilities and skills will be honed in such a way that they have the best opportunities at success. And that's something that unfortunately for Gonzalez, he was kind of reaching towards, and he kind of got cut short with regards to this whole situation. ESPN Mexico called it an execution. I'm not sure necessarily how true that is. I tend to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, just by virtue of the fact that the media tends to hype certain stories up if certain stories come across in a certain way, with regards to a lot of stereotypes and stuff like that. Like saying that a Mexican fighter got executed in Mexico, that says headline, it brings big headlines and say like, oh, drug violence, cartel violence, so on and so forth. It definitely does exist out there, but I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if it was just a bit more basic than anything having to do with like any kind of like high flying narco traficante type shit. Any kind of what was that movie, Traffic, back in the 90s? I think is when it came out. Anything like that going on, but I mean, you never know as well. The Celestino Caballero, of course, knows a little something about that. He was moving that weight down in Panama, got caught up, and it just goes to show that no fighter, no person, generally speaking, is immune, especially not when you're coming up from difficult circumstances to begin with. So just want to say in closing, once more, rest in peace to Gonzalez Jr., Alejandro Gonzalez Jr., aka Cobrita. Solid fighter, a guy that I thought might have had a really bright future. He's a guy that got thrown in young, thrown in tough. Definitely wasn't babied by any means, and he was looking like if he would have had maybe a few more years in order to properly develop, he could have potentially been a future world champion, a future multi-time champion, multi-weight champion even. Fairly tall guy for bantamweight, of course. Had a pretty good, solid victory over Jose Cayetano, incidentally, who, of course, gave Scott Quigg a bit of difficulty over this past weekend, and gave Leo Santa Cruz a whole hell of a lot of difficulty back when he fought him on the Mayweather versus Pacquiao card. A lot of people weren't all that impressed with the victories that Santa Cruz and Quigg had over Cayetano, but Gonzalez managed to pretty much dispatch Cayetano in a fairly similar fashion overall. Dominant performance from him, where he actually managed to drop Cayetano as well. But it just goes to show it's really unfortunate, and it just shows that tomorrow isn't always guaranteed sometimes. So you need to try and go for the gusto while you can. So that's pretty much all I have to say about this whole matter. Once more, R.I.P. to Alejandro Gonzalez Jr. I'm wishing his family well, and I'm wishing all you guys well as well. So I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.